What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of On Target, our Hawkeye in Review, guys. This is episode 5. Welcome to the channel, guys. If you haven't been to Project Potter before, my name is Kyle, your host. Guys, again, this show, after the first 2 episodes, it's like I'm watching a whole different product, dude. Episodes 3, 4, and 5 have all just gotten better and better and better. Very excited, guys, to talk about this one. If you haven't seen the show before, guys, these are quick reviews. I'm just going to go through some of my thoughts about the episode and then a score out of 10. So kicking it off here, guys, what an episode. I mean, we got, I think, Florence Pugh, I think is her name. Yelena, she's Natasha Romanoff's sister. We got her at the end of last episode. And I was like, oh, cool, that's probably all we're going to get from her. We might get maybe like a quick fight or whatever, cameo. No, we get like a full sequence, dude. She's a big player in this series. We start this episode off, Kate returns home, and her mom's like, oh, I'm so glad you're home. Kate goes back looking for something. I don't know why she even showed up there, but she's looking for something at her old burned down apartment. And that's when Yelena is already there. And she's like, oh, I'm making mac and cheese. And they have this just fantastic conversation. And Katie's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I know what you're thinking, dinner with the enemy. And she just kills it, dude. Like, what a great character to introduce in the MCU. And I don't remember, she was fun in Black Widow, but I feel like she really shines here, where she's like, oh, I know all about you. 3.8 GPA, double major, blah, blah, blah. Mom, this, dad deceased, unfortunately. And Kate's like, okay, we get it. And it's like, we get this back and forth where she's like, oh, do you want to make some macaroni and cheese? She's like, I just made it. And she's like, it's delicious. And she's like, I know how delicious boxed mac and cheese is. And she basically tells her this whole thing where she's like, oh, I want to go to New York and the Rockefeller thing and all that. And she's like, why are you really here? And she's like, well, I'm here to kill Clint. And she's like, no, Clint is a good guy. And she's like, why does everyone forgive him for all of the people he's killed? But I think Kate says, oh, he's an Avenger. And she's like, what does that even mean? And she brings up a great point. Kate says, oh, he saved the world. And she's like, no, my sister saved the world. So Kate says, he's not perfect, but there's going to be collateral damage. And she's like, what? So my sister's collateral damage? And she's like, no, that's not what I meant. But she's like, Clint is a good guy. And it's just this really awesome dynamic where it's like, Jeremy Renner is so likable that I think we forget that, like, maybe not before Hawkeye, but definitely in his Ronin phase, he went dark and he killed a whole bunch of people. And it's like, he's not a good dude. And we forget that because he's such a great family guy. He's such a great actor. And it's like, we want Jeremy Renner to be this hero. And he did play a part in the Avengers, but like she said, he is a murderer, like a mass murderer. It reminds me of like the Nathan Drake thing, guys, where it's like Nathan Drake is so likable and great, and especially in the video games, Nolan North is such a great voice actor, but you forget that he's literally murdering like hundreds of people. But we look past it. And so there's like this gray area where it's like, we love Jeremy Renner, but when Yelena says like, oh, I'm here to kill him, you're like, no, you can't kill Jeremy Renner, or you can't kill Hawkeye. But then you're like, well, she's bringing up a lot of good points, but then you also think about Yelena being like a Black Widow and how many people she's killed. But I don't know, man, it's crazy, but that whole sequence is fantastic. It's really, really awesome. Both Haley and Florence are both just incredible in that whole sequence there. Kind of fast forwarding, guys, we get just this awesome sequence where the Tracksuit Mafia is driving the truck and they're talking about how Run DMC is classic and all that stuff. And they're running through, and in the terrifying sequence where an arrow comes through the windshield and is like right next to the passenger's face, and he screams, and then it pops up and there's like a little note in there, and it tells Echo to meet him where she first met Ronin. And I was like, oh shit. And we saw this from the flashback. Obviously, it's like the used car dealership, and so she goes there and she's got her bodyguards and stuff. The Jon Snow's up there on the sniper. We get this dope sequence, dude, where he's on the sniper and then you just see the Ronin blade just slowly like come up to his neck, just the blade. And it's like, oh my God. And then he's like, oh, we can talk. And then he knocks him out. And then Ronin just takes these guys out one by one. Real quick though, guys, before that, I want to say there's a couple of really amazing scenes where he goes to like the Avengers building or whatever. There's like a monument where it says like, it's got all the names listed there, like Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, Natasha Romanoff. And it's so cool. Captain Rogers is on there. And it's like, it's like in 2012, this was when the Avengers first formed. And it's just so like emotional because Clint goes there and he's like, Natasha, he takes his his hearing aid out, which is really interesting to me. So I think he wants to like kind of block everything out around him. And so he says like, I really miss you. And he's like emotional, and he's like, I'm sorry for what I'm about to do. And I was like, oh my God, what's about to happen here? He calls Linda Calderini to I think Laura is her name, because he sends like texts and stuff. So he calls his wife, and he's like, it's getting bad. They sent a Black Widow after me, and he's like really serious about it because he's like, we need to talk. And she's like, oh, no fun conversation ever started with that. And he's like, if I don't win this tonight or whatever, he's like, the big man's going to get involved. And she's like, Jesus, really? And it's like, she obviously knows what's been happening there. And we just get that awesome Ronin sequence where he's just like Batman, just taking people out. And it's like, it's so cool. And then especially because Echo like can't hear, she's sitting there and like her guys are all around the cars. And then she looks over and she like startles. She's like scared because suddenly they're just gone. Very, very Batman-esque. And he just comes out in the suit and they have a really cool fight. But then he like takes her down, and then he takes off his mask and he's like, I wanted you to see my face. And she's like, what? So you can kill me? And he's like, no. He's like, I want to let you know that like this is your warning, and like I'm not going to kill you, but he's like, if you ever come at me again or whatever, he says like we're the same, and she says you're a monster. And again, it's just this like Jeremy Renner's not a good he's a great character. He's not necessarily a morally good character, or at least after the blip, and when deals with the blip differently. Oh guys, also I want to start out by saying we get just an incredible thing I never thought we would see, or didn't expect in this show at least, where we see Yelena at the beginning go into the house with like Anna or whatever, which I think is the mother from Black Widow. I didn't really remember, but they like think she's brainwashed by like Black Widow or whatever. So they pour the antidote on her face, and she's like, oh, look what you did to my rug. And it's just like stained. And she's like, $20,000 down the drain. She's like, wait, you weren't brainwashed? And she's like, no. She's like, I just kill for money or whatever. But Yelena goes in the bathroom. We see her get snapped. And then like 2 seconds later, she's back, and like the environment changes. And so it's like, whoa, dude, that's so cool, because she comes out and there's like different people there. The place is differently. They're like, who are you? And they're like, Yelena? The blip. This is so cool because we've never explored this. To the people who got blipped, this is how I interpret it. The people who got blipped, it was like 2 seconds for them, but it was 5 years of real time. This reminds me, this is just like Interstellar, guys, where they go on to, I think it was Miller's planet. And no, I forget which planet it was, but they go in the planet and they say every hour here is 7 years back on Earth. And then there's a big scene there where they get stuck there. Amazing movie. Go watch Interstellar, guys. But it's the same thing where it's like, she's like, I was gone for 5 seconds and I've lost 5 years of my life. And it's like, well, we've learned from like, I think it was either Homecoming or Far From Home, where they said like, you're the same age. So she doesn't age at all, but the 5 years of real time has passed. And so people have different lives and all this stuff. And it's really, really interesting to think that like, it's just like, it's like a snap. It's so quick, because we never really thought about what it's like for the people. Do they just get put back in there? If someone's flying a plane and we saw like the helicopter crash, like, is the pilot just right back in there, or like what's going on if there's already a pilot? It's all these things, like really fascinating stuff I love to think about with the blip and all that stuff. And I love that they tackled that. And so at the end, guys, Jack gets arrested, of course, because he's got tax records. Kate tells Eleanor, like, oh yeah, by the way, there's like really bad tax records or whatever. But we find out at the end, guys, Kate tells Hawkeye or Clint, that Natasha, she spoke with, not Natasha, she spoke with Yelena, and she's like, she's Natasha's sister, and he knows her. He goes, oh, Yelena. But she doesn't say, at least on screen, she doesn't say, oh, and she's come here to kill you. Maybe he just figured that out in his head, but he's just like, oh, okay. Also, we get an awesome sequence, guys, where Kate and Clint are now staying with Grills, and it's really great because he's the one who obviously took the Ronin suit initially, and we thought that was just gonna be a little scene, but now he turns out to be this like super nice guy, and he's like cooking for them and stuff. And he's like, Clint is like, oh man, I'm gonna go get a hotel. And he's like, no. He's like, dude, take the couch. He's like, take my bed if you need to. And it's like, oh, this character is such a nice, it's not just a side character. He's like such a great addition to the story. And it's just really nice that, like, again, we think that Jeremy Renner's character is a good guy, and he is probably good at heart, but his actions, I think, Yelena has this great line where she says, we're judged on what we do, and like our actions or the actions we take or whatever. And it's like, it's so true, where it's like, it doesn't matter that Jeremy Renner is a really nice guy, and he's such a great actor that you root for him. And then we got Eleanor, I think is Kate's mom. She said a couple episodes ago, Natasha was a good person too, but that didn't keep her alive. And it's like we're kind of approaching these themes of like how you act and what you do are two different things, where it's like you can be a nice person, but if you go out and murder a bunch of people after the blip, whether you lost a good friend or not, you're still a mass murderer. And so it's like, it's just really interesting. And we get the big reveal at the end here, guys, where Yelena's like tracking down Eleanor, and it turns out Eleanor's the one who hired Yelena to kill Clint. And then we're like, oh, well, actually someone hired Eleanor or someone gave Eleanor the task. And it turns out, guys, the rumors were true. Spoilers, if you guys, go watch the episode first and watch this, obviously. But turns out it's Kingpin. This is awesome, dude. I thought it was going to be Kingpin for a couple episodes, but I was like, I don't know, because when we get Echo's introduction in episode 3, there's like a guy in a suit, and it's like they don't show him on camera. But I was like, oh, is that Kingpin maybe? So awesome. I think it's the same guy who played Kingpin in, I think it was Daredevil. There's something else as well that I want to talk about, guys, but I'm not going to talk about that because it's in No Way Home, and No Way Home is brand new. So I don't want to spoil anything, guys, but it's starting to make a whole lot more sense now. And it's like, dude, Kingpin being in the MCU is so awesome, because I got to go back and rewatch. I think it was Daredevil that he was in. I got to go back and rewatch that because it came out a while ago and I remember loving it, but I remember Kingpin's performance was so good. And so I think they got the same actor back, but to have him in the MCU now is so cool and just awesome. This was an amazing episode, guys. This is a 9/8. It really was like start to finish, like this very, very high quality. And it really is weird that the first couple episodes of Hawkeye were not as good, because from episode 3 on, it's been really good. And it just seems like Marvel would know that like maybe they didn't have as much of a hit on episodes 1 and 2, but maybe it's just me. But it seems like a lot of comments I'm seeing are like people not liking the first 2 episodes as much, and then 3, 4, and 5 have been like knocking out of the park. So either way, guys, I'm happy that it's another excellent Marvel product. It adds to the story. And again, you got to watch these shows, because when you go see the big movies, dude, they're going to have big reveals or big things like, oh, that person's from What If, or that person's from Hawkeye, or that person's from Loki. And it's like so awesome that they can be like, hey, you're going to get your big movies, but in the meantime, you're going to get these TV shows. And guess what? They're going to be important and impactful. It's going to give you additional like background and characters that you didn't get as much screen time with. And we're going to introduce new awesome characters, so they show up in big movies. It's just great, dude. The MCU is just incredible. And I'm really glad that this show really turned into something. I don't know if I would say it's special. I say it's very good. We'll see how it ends, but I don't want to, just watching this through, as much as I'm loving Haley Steinfeld and Jeremy Renner, this isn't something I would watch through again. Like I could watch Loki right now from start to finish again, and I just watched it this year. So anyway, guys, that's another episode. Hope you guys are enjoying these. The show just keeps getting better and better. I can't wait for the finale this week. Thanks for checking out Project Potter. Thanks for checking out the channel, guys. I've been your host, Kyle, and till next week, guys. Peace.